Okay. Welcome everybody to our meeting of the Energy and Sustainability Working Party. First off, have we got any apologies for absence?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Miller-Jones and from the Operations Manager.
Thank you, Colin. Item 2, declarations of pecuniary interest and requests for dispensations. Item A, disclosable pecuniary interests. None. Other registrable interests. Joe? Yeah, I can't hear you. Yes, I hear. Can't hear you, Joe, I'm afraid.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now? Spot on. Yeah.
Right. Just my involvement with Keep Haverhill Tidy, which is an environmental group of people that do litter picking and are interested in the environment. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And non-registrable interests? No. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry, just for the sake of the minutes, Councillor Mason, there isn't an agenda item about the Keep Haverhill Tidy, so I'm not sure what type of declaration you're making.
Okay, then if it's not necessary, then that's fine. It would be non-pecuniary anyway. But
yeah, thanks.
So that's all gone. So there's you've got the choice of disclosable pecuniary, other registrable, and non-registrable. If you're thinking of yourself as is it actually a constituted body, the Keep Haverhill Tidy Group? I don't think it is, is it?
It isn't, no.
No, so I think probably other registrable interest. But as there isn't actually an agenda item to declare that for, I would say I wouldn't declare the interest unless it actually comes up in the meeting. Unless you're intending to bring it up in the meeting, in which case you can do it then.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for playing safe anyway, Joe. Yeah, okay then. Minutes of the previous meeting. To confirm the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday the 7th of February as a 2023 as a true record.
Just say Councillor Smith is just joining us now.
Oh, thank you. Can we have a proposer? John Burns, seconder, please. Alan Stitchcombe, and a show of hands. That's carried. Thank you. Item 4, actions from the previous minutes, not on the agenda. All right.
Do you want me to put them on screen?
Please. $43. Yeah. $44. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it. Have we got any actions from those minutes, Colin?
Yeah, so the actions rising just to follow up with professionals and West Suffolk regarding installation of solar panels to the building. And I can advise that Gary has said that the West Suffolk come back and said that their package doesn't have a battery storage offering, but a battery could be installed. The solar panel for Arts Centre, etc., we'll get on to when we engage, if we decide to engage with Bougie and through the framework agreement, which comes later on in the agenda.
Okay. The battery that they mentioned, have we got to pay in addition for that, or is it something that they're going to supply as part of the agreement? Or
I don't know. Gary hasn't said anything more than that, but he seems to be suggesting that West Suffolk, I don't know whether John can confirm whether or not a battery is probably in those days, 3 or 4 years ago, the technology is moving on so fast, whether a battery was part of the package that he was offered. But it seems that Andrew Oswald saying that battery storage is not part of the West Suffolk offer for businesses.
Yeah, I can come in. No, we were not offered. Well, we actually wanted it, but of course, energy prices have gone up and everything else. And you're right, Colin. The world has changed since then. We have inquired about batteries, and we have been told it can be done. And I think it came up before a previous meeting. The longer you want, the bigger the battery, sort of thing. But having said that, West Suffolk have just built a massive, monstrous, god-awful container outside their building, which is battery storage. It looks awful. They could paint it green, which would be helpful. But so they do, their own system is battery operated, so I can't see why they couldn't offer it to a commercial. It's not as if they do it themselves. It's a commercial company that does it. So I'm sure it's available. Thank you.
The domestic solar together scheme, which obviously is through Suffolk County Council, Norfolk County Council, and pretty well every other county council, the solar together scheme does offer batteries as part of the package. So I would agree with Councillor Burns. It doesn't seem a particularly wild suggestion that they should include some deal on batteries. I think particularly it's fine if you're working during the day, in which case the sun is shining and you can use the electricity as it's produced. But clearly, if, for example, and I do accept it's a big if there was solar panels on the Arts Centre, we would want to collect the electricity during the day and use it ourselves in the evening, and therefore a battery is essential. The zone, admittedly less so because it's not open into the evenings so much, but I would have thought it's still likely that it would be a useful thing to have for those days when you're generating a lot of electricity off the roof, particularly in summer when you may not be using much electricity otherwise. So yeah, it would be interesting to follow that up with Andrew Oswald to whether that's something they can look into.
To be fair, I think that's absolutely paramount, because basically if you just put solar panels in there, it just seems that you're there to maximise the subsidy, whereas if you put a battery there, it's to actually maximise the effects, the knock-on effect to the environment. So and it gives you the ability to actually buy in power at the time of the evening, etc. That the electricity is a lot cheaper. So I think that's absolutely something that's paramount. But the thing that I can't quite see is West Suffolk installing solar panels, allowing them to charge a battery that we use the electricity for, when it can go into the grid and they get paid for it. So I think there's quite a few.
They'd get paid more. They would earn more money.
Yeah.
Storing electricity and selling it to us than they will selling it to the grid, because they'll make 3p off the grid, and they'll be selling it to us for 10, 15, 20p probably. So it's far more valuable to them to sell it to an actual consumer than it is to be dictated to by the grid.
Oh, I hadn't realised that it actually had a separate meter for charging back the battery and that sort of thing. So
No, it just works opposite direction, but the calculations are done, and the kind of modern payment from the grid is very, very low indeed.
yeah,
It's not like the original first offers, which were actually a little bit excessive, and people who were able to sign up to those did very well out of it. But no, and this is why your argument, Chair, about batteries is so important, because if you've got nothing to use electricity for, the only option you've got left is to give it away for peanuts to the national grid, and that's why it's not economic to completely cover your entire roof with solar panels if you're not going to fit a battery. And even if you are going to fit a battery, once you've filled the battery up, you again have the default position where the only other place electricity can go is back to the grid for peanuts.
Yeah. So it's something we need to keep an eye on. Get Gary to keep his eye on exactly what's going on there. Thanks for that. Item 5 is the public forum. We obviously haven't got any members of the public, so we'll skip that. 6 is Bee Friendly Haverhill. To hear an update on the progress towards being a bee friendly town. Have we moved any further with that, Colin?
Not hugely. I know that Nan has been talking to Castle Manor School since the last meeting and putting together something with Castle Manor. And I've had the meeting with Haverhill and Bloom and West Suffolk, so that we've kind of agreed about the planting scheme around the bus station. And of course, the sustainable market's bee themed, as you know. So there's no huge leap forwards, but it's jollying along.
Yeah, thanks for that. Anyone any questions or anything to say on that item? Joe?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're still getting it off the ground. I think when I initially proposed the 2 motions, I was kind of hoping that the Bee Friendly was going to extend beyond the town centre and to explore opportunities to have environmental projects across the town, that we can truly say that we are a bee friendly town, and kind of get the message out to our different communities. As I travel around, there's an amazing amount of what I would call dead areas, small patches of land which have grass that have to be cut. And I think there are opportunities, and I did ask Damien, I think in that meeting, about can we explore where there may be opportunities to have biodiversity projects and that we could possibly celebrate as a bee friendly project. As I say, I am aware it's still early days, and but I noticed in the minutes, and nothing really has been mentioned since then. I also like the idea of us being able to have a map where we can begin to celebrate where our biodiverse areas are. So but Bee Friendly Haverhill isn't just a title that we earn or have, but it's one that is earned, and all our communities across Haverhill can actually get involved with and enjoy and celebrate as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, to be fair, there's quite a lot of patches along the old railway walk which would benefit, from that, just bits of waste ground, etc., it'd make it a lot more appealing, and there's a lot more people using it these days, I've noticed. Alan?
Thank you, Chair. How dare you call a nature reserve waste ground, Chair?
Well, yeah, I'm on about the bits away from yeah, I know what you're saying. But, to be fair, there are patches that could really benefit, from wildflowers, and I did sow mine 2 weeks ago, so I'm on board. Yeah, okay. Thanks very much for that. Item 7, sustainable markets. To receive a report on the planning for 2 sustainable markets in Haverhill this year. Colin, have you got anything on that?
I don't think there's much more to add, to be perfectly honest. The sustainable markets are in hand with Sarah. You funded the, councillors have kindly funded the B performance, which is all booked in. There appears to be a good number of stalls. So that's, I think, is just going to happen now. It's first one is this month, and it all looks pretty positive.
Yeah, thanks for that. Anyone got any questions or comments on that one? No. Okay. Item 8, Public Sector Decarbonisation Fund. To approve joining the Energy Performance Services Framework. I think everyone received the email from Colin last week. It had slides and etc. etc. So if you'd like to introduce that, Colin, just a quick refresh on that, if you don't mind.
Yes, so councillors will remember that the SALIX finances for public sector decarbonisation have had several rounds. There's a number of drawbacks with the system as far as we're concerned anyway. I'm sure there's others who see it as very positive. But those councils have the resources to take the financial risk of preparing a full oven-ready proposal for decarbonisation, are able to submit their bids on day one that the window for applications opens for SALIX. Somewhere around about 10 o'clock in the morning of the day that it opens, SALIX is fully subscribed, and everything is processed on a first come first served basis. So if you've made an application that kind of ticks all the boxes so that it can go forwards for processing, then that's great. Anyone who has heard that the window has opened and thinks that would be a good idea, we ought to try and put a project together, obviously have got around about an hour. So it's really, it's great for the big boys. And interestingly, in successive rounds of funding, those who've already been funded are very welcome to put another application in. So in other words, if you already know how to successfully put an application in, you can write another application based on the learning from the first one, and put that in on the moment the window opens, and you're in first come, first served, and you're successful again and again. So we've recognised that that's not a lot of good for tiddlers like us. We need the ability to have a plan. And it turns out through Councillor Miller-Jones' contact at Bougie that there is a framework agreement created by Cambridgeshire County Council, which we can join because we're in the Cambridge sub-region. And it is the framework agreement which provides us, if we join up to it, the ability to have a plan worked up. There's several different scales, different levels of it. And if I can share a slide, Chair, you happy for me to share a slide?
Yeah, please. Yeah, thanks, Colin.
Let's find this one here. So basically, the participating body is us. The service provider is Bougie. The service provider can be we put the request form in. Service provider produces an outline business case at no cost to us, so we can work out whether or not this is a goer or not. There is then a fixed cost on scales, pre-agreed rates, for a call-off contract phase 1. So that would be getting us to, I think, REBA level 2 or something like that, stage 2, which is kind of where we need to be to put a bid in for Salix funding or alternative funding opportunities. There's then goes forward to a phase 2 for delivery of the works if we're successful. And then there's a measurement and verification service. And this basically is if we need a savings guarantee. But all of the work is done by Bougie. The first couple of bullet points, effectively, there's no kind of overt cost to the council. Obviously, there's staff time involved in doing it. But if we're happy with that, we then go on to the production of an investment grade proposal, and it's the investment grade proposal that we need to get grants. And then if we are successful in getting funding on the back of that, then we can continue through and effectively Bougie deliver the decarbonisation project, whatever it might be. They're managing the entire thing. We've got Cambridge City Council sitting there as the umpire to make sure it all goes okay. To me, it's exactly what we need in order to get ourselves to the point where we have a business plan. And, yes, in an ideal world, we'll get the funding from somebody else, much prefer somebody else to pay for it. There is an element potentially of match funding in some of the schemes, and we do have funding to one side for some of this work in any case. But, for me, I would say that, and we'll get to it, going to at least the outline business case at no cost to us, being created by a professional company. This is what they're contracted to do. Seems to me to be a no-brainer, but obviously it's down to councillors to sanction us entering into the framework agreement, and then actually putting a request form in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Colin. Yeah. Okay. John, I was actually before you came up, I thought you'd be asking a question.
No, I think logically it seems to be it's a no-brainer in many ways because there's no cost to us.
No, exactly.
Why would you not take up an offer like that? My only question when I read the PowerPoint and everything else is, how does this fit in with what West Suffolk are doing and also the county council are doing in Suffolk? Because obviously West Suffolk are going through a massive decarbonisation scheme at the moment, and would they encourage or prefer, I don't know which way you could say it, for us to be part of a scheme that they're running rather than and I can't pronounce the name you just said.
Well, I very kindly, Councillor Stinchcombe has reminded me, and I was taught this by Miles and probably forgot, it's Bouygues.
Boyd, okay, fine, thank you, there you go. Thank you. Whether, and I'm not without treading on anybody's toes, is whether would they not get upset, but should they be leading on this? Because our element of all this is relatively small in the scheme of things. If you compare what West Suffolk are having to do, and Suffolk County Council is a bigger environment, and also Cambridge City Council, Cambridge County Council, all those people. But I think generally, yes, I mean, I would fully support this until at such point you come to us and say it's going to cost us X, and then we have to look what X is. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I think the Cambridge framework value is something like 40 million. So they really said that as long as we're not intending taking up more than 2 or 3 million of that, then they would be quite happy for us to join.
Okay.
I don't actually think West Suffolk has availed itself of the framework. These framework agreements, if people aren't familiar with them, effectively the procurement people, and in this case it's Cambridge, on risk, put a massive great framework agreement together and then effectively sell places on it. So whilst there's no cost up front for us, you'd see there's a 0.75% fee that we would have to pay to them for using their framework agreement. Of course, the confidentiality agreement which Cambridge has highlighted to us is just a reminder that the sorts of rates that they've secured are rates that we couldn't dream of outside the framework agreement, and therefore the 0.75% is neither here nor there. But they get some of their money back. And I think we're looking at probably, I don't think we'll creep over the £1 million mark. We might, but I don't think we will.
No, if I may come back, only because, I'm only thinking that West Suffolk and particularly West Suffolk and I guess all the other district councils in Suffolk as well, although I don't know what they're doing, have made big deals about their decarbonisation schemes and how much they're doing things, and obviously county are. And, we are in Suffolk, although we do tend to look towards Cambridge, of course, rather than Ipswich, which I fully support. So, yeah, no, I'm if you're asking me for my vote, I'd say yes.
Okay. Anyone else like to comment? No. Liz?
Yeah, Colin, you were talking about that 0.75 fee. Sorry, I just want to clarify. So there's no upfront cost for us though, so we wouldn't need to pay that at all.
That's correct. There's only the fee's only payable if a scheme actually goes ahead, and it's capped at 40,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Would you like us to vote on this, Colin? Yeah.
It'd be useful too. So we've got a trail there.
Yeah. So we've got proposer John.
Yeah, I propose.
Yeah, to approve basically what you're proposing, to approve joining the Energy Performance Services Framework as outlined in the agreement. So we've got a seconder for that, please. Alan, go show of hands, please.
Chair, can I just quickly ask something?
Yeah, sure.
Is this going to full council? I mean, it's quite a major responsibility with an exposure of 40,000. Should this not maybe go to full council as an agenda item, or is the decision being placed here and now?
No, it's all we are as a working party, so it will actually go to full council. If I'm correct, is that right, Colin?
Yeah, you're voting on a recommendation to full council.
Yeah, you okay with that one, Joe? Yeah. Okay. So we've got proposer John, seconder Alan. Go show of hands, please. Yeah, it's carried. Thank you, Colin. Okie doke. Item 9 is for members to suggest agenda items for our next meeting. Has anyone got anything that they'd like to bring up at the next meeting or discuss? John?
I'm only really, we do need Gary here to give us an update on the solar panel side of things.
Yeah.
Obviously, we spoke about batteries and all that sort of stuff. I think for the next meeting, we really ought to have, because we keep talking about this, but the longer it goes on, we're not doing anything, are we? So the only other thought I did have, and it's maybe a bit controversial, is could we put any solar panels on top of the building that's outside, the temporary building outside the art centre, consider it's a flat? Yeah, it's controversial, but I just thought I'd mention it. Thank you.
But yeah, to be fair, John, it's a temporary building anyway, and I think that the builder will ask for an uplift on making sure it's more structurally capable of taking extra weight, etc., etc. So any savings would be negated, I would have thought, but I would personally leave it as it is. Okay. Anyone else? Any suggestions? No. Item 10, just to confirm the date of the next meeting, which is Tuesday, the 13th of June 2023. Is everyone happy with that? Yeah. Okay, you can put out in your diaries, please. And item 11, that's the end of the meeting, short and sweet, but hopefully, especially with the item 8, the energy performance thing, it could be a real big thing for the town. So, yeah, good. Right, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you all, well, some of you tomorrow, and then